When you play the Game of Thrones, you
Subscribe and like.
or you die. There is no middle ground.
Alright, hello YouTube, welcome back to the Grease Comedy YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to be talking about the Curse of Harrenhal and how it affects not only House of the Dragon, but also the future of Winds of Winter and the future Dream of Spring as well, and how the Curse of Harrenhal could be foreshadowing the unfortunate fall of a certain character. But before we get into the video, if you guys like to subscribe, like, and comment for more of this type of A Song of Ice and Fire content, please do it up to channel grow or people that might like this content as well. And let's get into the Curse of Harrenhal and all of the things that have befallen its previous lords and or king. So to start, Harrenhal was ruled by Black Harren, and it was described as being one of the greatest castles, if not the greatest, in its time. It was huge. It had, you know, mighty towers all along it, and even to the time of A Song of Ice and Fire, it's still described as a very important castle when sieging the Riverlands and things to that nature. We see how many times it switches hands within A Song of Ice and Fire and the War of the Five Kings. And so we're going to go through the deep history. So Black Harren builds this castle, and eventually he gets roasted alive by Aegon the Conqueror. He fuses to bend the knee, and him and his entire family ends up getting wiped out. So next, this house would then pass by House Corus. They kind of have rulership of the castle from 1 AC to 37 AC. Now, AC stands for Aegon's Conquest, for you that don't know. And eventually, they are wiped out by Harren the Red. So already in a 37-year period, one family has already been wiped out of Harrenhal. Now, next house that was given rulership over Harrenhal was House Heroin. And they would rule from 37 AC to 44 AC until their last descendant is killed off by Maegor the First. This will be a common trend of people getting Harrenhal and then ruling for a very short amount of time, and then bam, they're gone. So the next two that end up kind of ruling Harrenhal, we're not certain on how long they actually ruled for. It's not given an exact date or time. George R. R. Martin is sometimes loose with the time in A Song of Ice and Fire and in the histories. But all we know is that after 44 AC, House Towers comes into fruition, and they die out about 2 generations later. We're not sure exactly what date that is, but they do end up dying out. Whether that's just they couldn't get more heirs or whatnot, all we know is that eventually that house dies out as well. And that will lead us into House of the Dragon. So this will be spoilers from episode 6, and this will also be spoilers for the end of the series. So again, I would very much, if you don't want spoilers for the very end of the show or the time period as a whole, I would probably skip about a minute into the future of the video. So how strong, we're not sure again what year they come into possession of Harrenhal, but we know they rule until 131 AC. And let's even look at the TV show House of the Dragon, and we'll even reference Fire and Blood as well. The Strongs rule Harrenhal, but the weird thing is here is that they themselves are the ones that kind of destroy their own house in Harrenhal, right? So in the show, they go the route of Larys Strong actually kills his father and his brother to gain him power. And also the show, it kind of goes the route of trying to gain favor with Alicent and the Greens as a whole. In Fire and Blood, it's a little bit more like if it was Larys that did it, it was more for him gaining power. He would become the new ruler of Harrenhal. But in Fire and Blood, there's a lot of people that could have done it or could have done it. There's no real one answer. So yeah, but all we know is House Strong by 131 AC eventually dies out. Cregan Stark executes the last Strong. And that will lead us to 151 AC, where Harrenhal passes to House Lothston. Now, they would rule from 151 AC, and then we don't know what end time, right? We just know that the line was ended during Maekar Targaryen's rule, the first. So we're not sure when they actually die out. We just know a certain ruler. At some point, they die out. So the Curse of Harrenhal, as you can see, no one really has kept Harrenhal for a long period of time. It's been very quickly that they die out. Now, the next house, maybe a little bit more noticeable, because this is kind of, we start getting into the time period of the main story of A Song of Ice and Fire, is House Went. You may notice them from having a Kingsguard. They had a Kingsguard. In the Mad King's Kingsguard, there was a Went, and also House Went is in control of Harrenhal at the start of the War of the Five Kings. Now, this would end up coming to an end when Lady Went gives up Harrenhal to Lord Tywin Lannister in 298 AC. So we have a big little jump here, right? So House Went, they rule Harrenhal for about 3 generations. So I would say they probably owned Harrenhal the longest of any of the houses on the list, but they do eventually die out. So then we see House Slint. They are in rulership of Harrenhal, quote unquote, for 299 AC, and that is it. Eventually, Harrenhal passes to House Baelish. Now, this is where it is at the current story. So let's talk about why this has kind of been known as a curse. And as I've gone through the histories of Harrenhal and who's owned Harrenhal, you can see that really no one's had it for a very long time. House Went had it for about 3 generations, which is really the longest of anyone on this list. And what does that bode for the future of A Song of Ice and Fire and Littlefinger as a whole? I think this isn't really a surprise to anyone, but Littlefinger is going to have his downfall at some point. But this is more evidence that Baelish is not going to survive the rest of the story. So I think we can take a lot out of Harrenhal. I think it would be really interesting if the way Littlefinger went down is maybe they take a stop at Harrenhal and something happens where Sansa is able to kind of finally take out Littlefinger and see through all of his bullshit and eventually take him out. So I think that would be really cool to see. And there's other things that I want to kind of talk about on Harrenhal's significance that we really never saw in the show, Game of Thrones. And I hope to see it in House of the Dragon, as Harrenhal really is more of a formidable fortress than even something like Riverrun, even though Riverrun is the main castle in the Riverlands. Harrenhal is more of a hub between the entire land. It's more formidable. Think about it. Why does Tywin take Harrenhal? Because it is a very strong position. And eventually Roose Bolton ends up also taking it. So I think there's a lot of parallels we can draw from this, because House Bolton, right? Maybe they only occupy Harrenhal for a short amount of time, and Roose Bolton is never really made like, this is your castle, but he does hold it for quite a bit. And Roose Bolton is someone that I think is going to have a downfall. I think his house is going to have a downfall. Tywin Lannister is someone that holds it, as well as the Mountain. And I think both of them, I mean, if you look at Tywin, he dies, and then the Mountain, we presume, is kind of into a zombie now, so he's not really the same. I think House Clegane could possibly die out. I don't think the Hound is going to survive. So you look at everyone that's even held it for someone else, they don't really have a good outcome, it looks like, in the future books. So I think Harrenhal, just that curse, is just something that I think is amazing in A Song of Ice and Fire lore, and it's something that's interesting to study, and it can even let us predict the future of some of the characters that did actually hold it at some point. So let me know what you guys think about the Curse of Harrenhal. Are you guys excited to see more of it in House of the Dragon? Because I would assume we're going to see it. There's some pretty big plot points that do happen there. So I'm excited to see that, and I'm excited to see the future of Harrenhal in Winds of Winter whenever we get that, or if we do. I know you guys love to remind me that we're never going to get it, but I'm still holding out some hope, right? I think we can get Winds of Winter. I don't think we're going to get Dream of Spring. But yeah, thank you guys for watching the video. If you want to see more of these kind of lore type videos, let me know. Suggest some things in the comments what you guys want to see. I've always been wanting to make one on Harrenhal, just never got the time to do it, and I finally got to it. So thank you guys all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.
If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.